So, at the end of every year, a lot of people like to do these types of lists and everything like that, detailing their favorite games of the year. And frankly, I would love to be able to do that, but the problem is I have a job and all of that, and I don't have time, and that takes a lot of time. So, what I went ahead and decided to do is I'm going to go ahead and just list off the 5 games that I just had the most fun with this year. And it's not really in any particular order or just like any coherent thoughts in this. It's just me rambling about these 5 games because genuinely 2022 is one of those years that like it had stuff in it, but there was a lot of stuff that didn't just hit with me. And now going through this year, I thought to myself, hey, there's some good games here, and I think 5 is a decent enough number to go by. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So don't expect any coherent thought into what I'm saying here or just an order. Just these are the 5 games that I loved to death. And let's go ahead and get started with the 5th game. The first game I probably bought this year and really felt the impact of. It's Elden Ring, guys. Elden Ring is such a unique game in the sense of I suck at it, but that doesn't deter my enjoyment of it. The world is beautiful. The game controls like a dream. If you are into Souls-like games, this game is right up your alley because of the world that it is set in. And trust me when I say that going through the game, I knew I was going to suck at it because I've always sucked at Dark Souls, Sekiro, Bloodborne type games. But exploring this world that Miyazaki had created, it was a real joy to go through. And trust me when I say that you will find some more enjoyment. You will find enjoyment out of this game. Trust me when I say that, because all these review sites giving 10 out of 10s and everything like that, they're doing it for a reason. And yeah, Elden Ring just does everything right, frankly. Now, the next game I'm going to talk about, I went back and forth on what game I wanted to talk about here, but I wanted to talk about Crisis Core Reunion, because that is a fantastic game and I'm actually putting a lot of hours into it as we speak. But then I went back and thought about games I played this year, and I thought, what was the game after Elden Ring? Was there really that much of a lull period, really? But then I remembered, oh yeah, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. That came out, and that was a blast. That was a very fun platformer. Kirby's jump into 3D platforming is actually a very fun time, and well, I thought, as I've talked to a friend of mine before, we both had our skepticism on how 3D Kirby could work, but playing through the game, it worked like a dream because the best way to describe it is like it is a Kirby game that, again, is just played in a 3D perspective, but it doesn't deviate too much away from our Kirby formula, and that is a very good thing. The Kabi abilities are still very fun to use. Kirby controls like a dream, and his multiple jumps, like, they're still there, but they're not broken to beyond belief. Like, there's a limit to how high you can go, so I mean, like, the level design isn't broken or anything by like his multiple jumps. Multiple secret levels you can go through, challenge levels, all the bosses were fantastic to play against, and it's just, there's not enough good I can say about it, obviously, because it's one of those games I had to go back and I had to remember, oh yeah, that came out, but oh yeah, that was a really good game. It was a fun time. And it's probably my favorite Kirby game, which is saying something because Return to Dreamland was also a fantastic game, and that's been my favorite Kirby game since it came out, so. Yeah, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. A great transition to 3D platforming for Kirby, and hopefully we get more of it soon, because I think this actually revitalized a lot of interest in Kirby, as it is now the best-selling Kirby game. But we're going to move on to something that I did not anticipate, frankly. Looking back at it and leading up to this game's release, I cannot believe I love this game as much as I do. and it's from a series that I just have nothing but problems with, and that game is Sonic Frontiers. Sonic Frontiers. We all saw the trailers leading up to the game. It looked bad. It was not shown in the best of light, and knowing my history with Sonic, I had a feeling that it's gonna suck. But also, I really want to buy it because that initial trailer that I saw where it was like open world Sonic, I'm like, okay, that's enough of a pull to make me go, okay, maybe I should try this game out. Now, going through the game at first, I'm like, okay, it's a little slow, and like, there's some bosses that just don't click because there's a lot of like technical problems with them. But when you get into the game and it gets going, it goes, pardon the play on words here, but it goes Sonic speed. It is so good. The game moves at such a frantic pace that is actually surprisingly really coherent with like its world design. Open world Sonic actually works in a really good way because it gives you a lot of good space to run around and basically do your thing as Sonic. The spring pads are not too terrible, the boost pads are not too terrible, and everything just feels like a coherent world. There was a lot of times where I would just stop and look at the scenery also because the game actually looks very stunningly good. Now, the one drawback to the game, I would say, is that like a lot of it feels a bit samey. A lot of the side quests are just revealing the map, but when you go through the side missions with your characters like Tails, Amy, Knuckles, when you go through those and you get more insight into their relationship with Sonic, it is actually a very, very well told story. And that is one of the big things that actually sold me on the game when I was going through it. The story is actually told very well because they actually subdue Sonic in a lot of good ways. He's not an annoying, cocky hedgehog anymore. He is like, they play him serious, and yeah, he has that cocky attitude still, but it's a lot more subdued. It feels like he's an actual character now rather than a one-note trope. Now, also, I have to talk about this also. The bosses are fantastic in this game. The only thing that really disappointed me from a boss perspective really was just the final boss. It was kind of boring, and it was kind of over before you knew it. But it was a great game, and also the soundtrack. The soundtrack is fantastic. A whole bunch of good rock remix tracks and everything like that. A lot of good stage remixes, all that. Like classic stages that they throw in there. Fantastic. Everything about this game. A lot of it just hits its mark, and I was not expecting that coming from this game. Again, it may have been just the time that it came for me, but I think it is a very good game that is deserving a lot more attention than it got. And a lot of people wanted to give it negative attention because lol, Sonic's bad. And yes, the series has had a lot of bad moments, but this is not one of them. This is a fantastic game, and I really do think it does set the groundwork for Sonic's future. And now we're going to move into two games that I have went back and forth on. Because, frankly, I don't think... I'm going to talk about them one at a time, but I don't think I can choose between them what these two games are, and I can't choose between, like, the game of the year between these two. And a lot of people will disagree with this because one of these games, oh boy, there's a lot of problems with it. But I'll explain my reasoning in a minute. And it's one of those weird things where, like, God, I had such series fatigue on this. This game series, I had such series fatigue. I thought one of these games I was just not going to care about. I knew I was going to like one because it was such a unique setup. But I'll go ahead and say it, and we'll talk about this one first. Pokemon Legends Arceus. Pokemon Legends Arceus is a great new take on Pokemon. It's not completely open world because it is like, it's very segmented. Think of it more of a Monster Hunter style, where you select certain areas you go to and you have this large sprawling environment to explore, but it is kind of sectioned off from the rest of the world. Now, Pokemon Legends Arceus does a great job of subverting series tropes. And what I mean by that is it takes you from your character from the present and puts them in the past. This is during an era where Pokemon catching is not really all that big. It is not a universal thing in this world. And so you're a part of the survey crew that basically goes out and catches Pokemon, studies them. And that is one of the most entertaining aspects about this game, is catching Pokemon. Thank you, they finally made catching Pokemon a fun thing to do rather than a hassle to try and complete the Pokedex. Now, a lot of people will say, well, it's not, like, it can get repetitive, but see, the thing about that is what makes it so much fun is that the more of these Pokemon you catch, and the more you study them, the deeper your Pokedex gets. It's not just you catch the Pokemon and you know everything about it. It is constantly just learning more information the more you catch these Pokemon. You'll get more and more information about their habitats, their typing, all that jazz. It is a really, really fresh take on how the Pokedex has been, and I actually felt very enthusiastic about completing the Pokedex. There's like multiple different entries that you can do with, like, say, trying to think of an example here. Use a move multiple different times and you'll unlock a new entry for this Pokemon. It's little things like that that make completing the Pokedex a fantastic time. And also, it's just, the music in that game is, basically, it is what I wish a lot of Breath of the Wild had. It's very ambient music, but also it is actual music. I know that's like very nondescript and everything, but just listen to some of the tracks in that game. I'm just thinking like the main town theme and everything like that, just the ambient sounds of that and how cozy the home base feels. Coronet Heights is a very nice track. All of that is fun music, and it's just, that's the stuff Papa likes. Now, I went on and I've talked a lot about this game, and if you ask me tomorrow, like, yeah, I'll probably say it's my favorite game this year. But I think the reason why I'm going to talk about this game last is because the emotional attachment I have to it because of the time of my life that it came through. And that's Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet has a lot of problems. The performance issues are very glaring, and it is very obvious that a lot of corners had to be cut to get this game out this year. Time crunch is a very, very bad thing in video games. And developers just rushing a game to get it out for the sake of meeting a deadline, it is very bad. Do not get me wrong on that. But Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came at a time where I had difficulty living my life. It was a lot of mental health issues and everything like that, and this game came out at a time where I was at a very low point in my life. And getting to play this game and just having the time to sink into it, I fell in love with every aspect of it. The open world exploration of this game, the just doing everything in an order that is unintended but still feels intended in a way. I know that sounds a little bit contradictory, but like if you play the game, you understand what I'm saying. Just the characters in this game, they actually nailed down very good characters. There are good twists. Everything about this game. Catching Pokemon is a blast. This is the first Pokemon game I can truly say I 100% completed that Pokedex because the game earned my attention. Every little aspect of this game, whether it is catching Pokemon through Pokemon battling, the Let's Go mechanic, which can be kind of annoying when you want to evolve fucking Palmy or something like that, all of these aspects are really good. Miraidon and Koraidon being your bike and also having all these HM moves built into them. It makes traversing the world fantastic. The Titan battles are really, really good. Now, the weakest part may have been, like, Team Star's stuff with me, because I like the Let's Go mechanic. It's fun, but I would have rather actually had Pokemon battles in place of just doing the Let's Go mechanic there. But other than that, it's a well-told story there too. And everything all coming together in the end was fantastic. All the characters you have met throughout your journey coming together and doing that final journey and all that, all of it was so good. And it actually genuinely, and I'll be honest here, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is one of those games where, like, yes, DLC is what Pokemon Company really wants to push for Pokemon going forward. But this is actually one of the first games in a while where I can genuinely say a third version would be amazing. You can fix all the little problems that we've got there. You can fix the performance issues like you did in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl to Platinum. You can add Pokemon that you really wanted to add. You can add new, not DLC per se, but like you can expand on mechanics. You can expand on the world. You can expand on so much. This game is really, really good. It is genuinely my favorite generation of Pokemon. And it's one of those things where, like, I felt so fatigued by the series. Because at this point, I was just like, Sun and Moon came out. I did not like them that much. Back in 2016, I kind of liked it. But, I mean, like, looking back, I did not like them that much. Sword and Shield, everything about that was just tiring. The fan base's reaction to it versus how the game actually was, wasn't good. But looking back on it, yes, now that I have something like Scarlet and Violet, I can look back and say, you know what, Sword and Shield was pretty alright. But having Scarlet and Violet in my hands, playing it, I felt an unbridled joy that I have not felt playing Pokemon in years. And that was genuinely enough for me to say, hey, this is probably my favorite game of this year. And that is basically going to wrap up how I felt about 2020. A lot of it was just shocks for me. I did not expect to like the Pokemon games that much. I kind of thought I was going to like Legends Arceus because it was something new and fresh to the series. But Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was a complete shock to my system that I genuinely was just surprised by. Sonic Frontiers was a fresh take into the Sonic universe, and it really, really sets the groundwork for how Sonic can go forward. Elden Ring, I did not think I was going to like that either because I'm not the type of person, I suck in video games, guys. I thought I was not going to like this game because it was going to constantly kick my ass, but there's enough there that kept me moving forward. And just because I'm getting my ass kicked, that didn't mean I felt like I improved a lot more in that game than I did in, say, Dark Souls. And that was an amazing feeling also. And Kirby, I kind of felt like I was going to like Kirby. I mean, I know I was skeptical about the 3 thing, but I mean, like, I kind of already assumed. That's pretty much it, guys. I enjoyed a lot of games this year. I know I only talked about 5. I would have loved to talk about Crisis Core Reunion a lot more in depth. Triangle Strategy was a fantastic game that I have not played terribly much of. But a lot of this year actually was me dedicating myself to retro games. And join me next time when I decide to go over the 5 retro games I decided to go back and play for the first time this year.